It was 2:13 in the morning. Daniel was fast asleep when a woman's scream suddenly tore through the silence. Daniel immediately sat up in bed. He stared at the ceiling, trying to understand what he had just heard. Then, 3 loud knocks came from the apartment above him. And then, nothing. Daniel slowly reached for his phone. The screen lit up his face. He waited for another sound. Nothing. No footsteps. No voice. Just complete silence. Daniel eventually lay back down, but he didn't sleep for the rest of the night. The next morning, Daniel went downstairs and found his landlord standing near the lobby. Daniel had only been living in the building for a few weeks, so he still didn't know much about the place. But there was one thing he wanted to know: who was living above him. He walked over to the landlord. "Hey, can I ask you something? The apartment above mine, someone lives there?" The landlord looked at him, and his expression changed. "No, apartment 14 has been empty for 11 years. Daniel stared at him. 11 years? He gave a nervous little laugh. "Wait, I heard a woman screaming up there last night." The landlord didn't laugh. He didn't even smile. He just stared at Daniel for a few seconds. Then he said, "Nobody has lived there since 2015. Daniel tried to laugh it off. "Well, that's weird." But the landlord still didn't smile. Instead, he looked toward the staircase leading upstairs. Then back at Daniel, and in a much quieter voice, he said, "Daniel, don't go upstairs." Daniel looked toward the dark staircase. For the first time, he wondered what was actually inside apartment 14. He didn't know it yet, but the scream he heard that night. Daniel tried to forget about the previous night. But the next night, at exactly 2:13 a.m., it happened again. A woman's scream echoed through the building. Then, Daniel sat completely still in his bed. He didn't move. He didn't even breathe. And then, silence. The same thing happened the following night. And the night after that. Every single night. 2:13 a.m. The same scream. The same 3 knocks. Until Daniel finally decided to record it. He placed his phone on the nightstand. Then he waited. 2:12, 2:13, and the scream began. "Help me. Please. Someone help me." Daniel waited until morning before listening to the recording. At first, everything sounded normal. The scream, the knocking, then something else. A whisper, barely audible. Daniel froze. He replayed the recording. Again and again. It was definitely his name. He stared at the phone, then slowly looked toward the ceiling. How does she know my name? For a moment, Daniel just sat there, trying to convince himself there had to be a logical explanation. But he couldn't think of one, and that's when he made a decision. He was going upstairs, just once, just to see what was actually there. The hallway upstairs was darker than he expected. Daniel slowly walked toward the end of the corridor. Apartment 14. The door was covered in dust. There was no handle, no way to open it. It looked like the apartment had been sealed shut years ago. Daniel stepped closer, and that's when he noticed something scratched into the wooden door. For words, "Don't answer her." Daniel stared at the warning. For a few seconds, he couldn't move. Then he slowly stepped backward. "No, absolutely not." He turned around and walked away. But as he reached the stairs, he heard something behind him, a faint sound, coming from inside apartment 14. That night, Daniel called his landlord. No answer. He tried again. Still nothing. Then the clock changed.